You're listening to The Pulse on AMI Audio. I'm Grant Hardy. With the arms race to develop and market powerful and ubiquitous AI technologies, we are really sidelining important ethical conversations about the technology. Dr. Jutta Treviranus is the director of OCAD University's Inclusive Design Research Center, and she's here to delve into some of those ethical and societal implications of AI technologies and their role in deepening inequalities in society. Dr. Treviranus, thank you so much for joining us on The Pulse.
It's a great pleasure to be here again.
First of all, tell us a little bit about the Inclusive Research Center at OCAD, what work you're doing, and how this how your research intersects with AI.
Well, the IDRC, or the Inclusive Design Research Center, is a research and design center that I started with my team back in 1993. And we've been a global community whose mission is to proactively ensure that emerging systems and their associated practices are designed so that they're inclusive of everyone. And we do this through community-led co-design with the people that feel the impacts of these systems the most. And AI is obviously one of those quickly emerging systems that has permeated all of our decisions as individuals and as a society. So this has become a major focus for us over the past few years.
Yeah, it's really important to be proactive instead of reactive when it comes to accessibility and try and retrofit things after the fact. It's interesting because AI, a lot of people in the blind community for sure are kind of seeing it as this gift because of things like image description, but there's some downsides too. So this is interesting. The US university has stated that AI eliminates differences and standardizes outcomes. What exactly do you mean by this?
Well, AI at its very basic is, whether it's the neural nets or the things that people have become so aware of, the chat GPTs and the large language models. At its very basic, it's a statistical reasoning machine feeding on available data. And it can be seen as this power tool, like moving from a hammer and chisel to a powerful motor, say. It can do the things that we've done before, but more accurately, consistently, and efficiently. And of course, everyone is looking for that accuracy, efficiency, consistency. AI is simply mechanizing, accelerating, and amplifying existing patterns and automating them. So it's wonderful at statistically finding and producing the typical, the popular, the normative, the predictable, the statistically average. And unfortunately, people with disabilities are the furthest from what AI is optimizing. We're the outliers or the margins in this statistical analysis. If you take a data plot of the human population on any sort of data characteristic, data related to disability is usually right at the periphery, and any statistically determined conclusion is true for the average, inaccurate as you deviate from that average, and wrong when for people who are outliers or at the margins. And that happened even before AI emerged. I mean, if you heard, on the news, the average so-and-so and the consistent, usually if it related to something, or if you have a disability within that characteristic, those truisms would not hold for you. AI is simply accelerating that pattern. And so AI, being a statistical replicator, is skewing everything towards the average, towards the typical. And that discourages difference. It discourages that uniqueness that we all have. And a great example at the moment that I just experienced yesterday, I visited a school, and a number of kids were using AI for word prediction, etc.
Mhm.
And AI was basically eliminating all of the sort of quirky, unique utterances, turns of phrases. The vocabulary was made very vanilla.
Yep.
It was, but of course, in a school, kids are concerned about being normal, right?
Yep.
Being more like the average, fitting in. And so, what's happening here? We're we're basically also creating discomfort, greater discomfort with being different or being unique. It's definitely pushing us towards sort of a monoculture.
It's an interesting way of putting it that it literally eliminates anything fun or quirky or anything related to your personality and just creates something that's quote unquote normal, which is pretty scary. Interesting. I ran an apology I was thinking of sending to someone through ChatGPT just to see what it thought, and it came back with a completely passive aggressive, like, if anything happened that you didn't like, I apologize for whatever happened, which is, very interesting that this is the kind of writing that people are going to put out there.
Right. Well,
Um,
it's creating it based on a very polluted data pool, right?
mm.
Not definitely not a curated set of data that it's learning from.
So this is the big news. Consumers aren't aware of this, but it is happening behind the scenes that during a recent AI summit in Paris, the US and the UK refused to sign the global pact aimed at ensuring AI remains open, inclusive, transparent, ethical, and safe. So what does this mean and what are the implications going to be?
Well, very good question. We monitor harm and incident databases that catalog the harms of AI, and it's pretty scary. Like Trump's actions on climate change while the world threatens to burn up, his refugee policies while we face global displacement, and his public health disruptions when we're facing ever increasing health threats. This decision seems like a further move towards human annihilation or something really crazy. His motives are really inscrutable. The irony is that it is the AI developers that previously asked for the regulation. They understood the perils of unfettered AI development. They understood that AI could disrupt national security and elections, that it's a powerful weapon for destruction in the wrong hands, and is and will continue to increase disparity, making everything worse for people who are already struggling and everything better for people who are already doing well. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, told the US Congress in May 2023 that AI threatens to go quite wrong. And they want to work with government to prevent that from happening. And unfortunately, since that summit in Paris, most of the large global AI companies seem to be bending the knee to Trump and taking the attitude that the world be damned as long as they advance profit. There are some holdbacks, but it's really unfortunate that this happened at such a large global event.
So where do we go from here? Like, is there any sort of hope for change, or what do you think we're going to see happen in the next few years since those abstentions took place?
Well, anywhere where there's like an extreme action, there is a extreme reaction. And I think one of the good things is that there has been a mobilization of people who are sufficiently concerned and who want to provide meaningful resistance to some of the fairly destructive things that are happening. And so there are both companies, organizations, governments that are escalating efforts like the EU AI Act, marshalling around that, creating alternatives that are of AI that are less destructive, that are less standardized, that allow for that diversification, tuning AI, figuring out ways of how do we promote the sorts of human values we need to promote rather than the values that AI is currently designed for. It's largely designed to promote profit, to promote attention, and to and monetization. It's looking at the popular. It does not produce truth. It tries to produce something that's believable. We know that what produces attention. It's not the kind, gentle, supportive, beneficial things that are for the common good. So there are efforts to see whether we can do something about what has happened.
It's been stated through your research that AI could become a powerful eugenics machine. Can you touch on exactly what you mean by that and how that could become a real possibility?
Right. Yeah. Diversity and difference, we know, is essential to survival. Unlike what is said by some, it's diversity that's the true engine of evolution, not survival of the fittest. Even the definition of fitness is often misinterpreted. Fitness refers to adaptability, it's not strength and aggression. Predators are the first to face evolutionary demise. By eliminating difference in both obvious and very dramatic ways, and also in subtle and insidious ways, AI is creating a monoculture. Like eugenics movements, the justification is couched in platitudes about how it will benefit humanity, how it will be good for people who are struggling. But in actual fact, it is hampering our ability to respond to the unexpected and unpredictable crises. And of course, anyone divergent from the determined optima is harmed by this. It also means that we are not creating systems that work for people who are struggling. So our systems won't work for us when we're all struggling. It is an extremely insidious, scary form of digital eugenics that sort of sneaks up on you because AI tools are really seductive. I mean, it's amazing to see what they can do. And we start to get comfortable with, oh, yeah, I'll accept that word because it'll be faster.
Yeah.
Or oh, AI must be right in making this decision about employment or hiring or what the facts are. But in fact, we really need to be critical. It is sneaking eugenics in on us.
Yeah, that's exactly the example I was curious about as we were talking. It relates to employment. That I would imagine as AI is used for more standardized screening processes, that sort of thing, it's basically going to effectively filter out everything related to inclusion, equity, and diversity because it deviates
Yeah.
from whatever that standard is.
Yeah, even before the DEI executive order, AI hiring machines were eliminating difference. So the way that the EEOC, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission in the US, estimated that about or more than 90% of organizations were using AI hiring tools. And what they do is they try to match the optima of the past. So they find here's an successful employee of the past that's most productive, that went through the ranks the quickest, and they find matches because that AI is very good at finding matches. And of course, if you were not like people that were hired before, if you were in any way deviating from that average or that optima, then you would not be picked. So these AI hiring tools were eliminating anyone that had unique qualities, unique perspectives, unique employment history.
So that's kind of what we're talking about when we talk about inequity and marginalization and possibly even eugenics, is that it's just basically going to eliminate people's opportunity to participate in society, essentially.
Yes.
It's interesting. Um, I have to ask this because people are going to be wondering this watching. There's no doubt that AI has been greatly beneficial to the blind and partially sighted community, with everything from image description to, highly accurate print recognition. Do you feel that there is a place for AI related to accessibility as well, or do the downsides just weigh too heavily against the upsides?
No, I think there's extreme opportunities in AI. There's definitely extreme upsides. If our aim is to become more normal, in quotation marks, AI is an amazing tool. It's great at translating not only languages, but also modalities, such as audio content to visual content to audio or text content, translating our voice and gestures and recognizing all sorts of gestural patterns, say. It's amazing at finding what we need if what we're looking for is fairly average. So I do not want to downplay the importance and the efficacy of AI there. But even here, it works the worst for people that need it the most. If your speech is furthest from the average training data, the visual environment that you're in is unlike the average training data. Say you're living in a poorer environment than where the AI was trained, or you have products that you want to recognize that are in different languages, or you live in the company of people who are not average. The miraculous tools won't work as well. And this causes a further problem in that employers, educators, service providers assume that the accessibility problem is fixed by AI. And if you still face barriers, it must be your problem. I don't know how many times when I've been advocating with someone, I've heard HR personnel say, but so-and-so is also blind and he uses the AI to overcome the problem. The assistive technologies also expose you to hallucinations, privacy breaches, and escalating costs. Once you have come to depend upon those tools, they start to up the cost for it. And unfortunately, we're also seeing schools that are pushing back on AI use and are penalizing students who use AI-based assistive technologies. They're creating these edicts that AI should not be used and that you will be penalized if you do. And that captures a lot of the assistive technologies as well.
It's interesting thinking about AI and accessibility. As much as they're really, you can get it to give you quite disturbing information, and we're discussing a lot about some very difficult ethical questions. There's also this real kind of like censorship where, blind and partially sighted people can't get equivalent information that a sighted person could get just because the AI refuses to describe or discuss or interact on certain contexts. And I know this has kind of come up in a medical context too, where, some times when you could get, so in photos described to give you medical information about your body, let's say, the AI will refuse to do that because it sort of talks to you like a 5-year-old. That's sort of an interesting ethical question in as well, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, try asking it anything about disability and sex. You won't get anywhere, or it'll be very, very stigmatized and strange. We've been experiencing this in our classes with captioning. We have certain courses that, like on the sex trade or ethical courses or social justice courses that are dealing with what is deemed to be toxic or sensitive material. And the students that require the captions can't follow because not only it doesn't actually, the captioning systems that we're relying on doesn't only simply say toxic content or censored content. It replaces it with these nonsense words that have nothing to do with the subject matter. And of course, it's the most critical words that allow the student to understand what is being discussed that are being censored.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting, and definitely something that we
Yeah.
haven't completely figured out surrounding those ethics of censorship.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's even more sorry, there's even more disturbing ways in which that works, in that people with facial differences are
mm,
censored from social media, deemed to be toxic, and any, yeah, there's
yeah, there's
already,
issues where I believe people with facial differences have actually been banned from dating apps
yeah,
because the AI believes that you're fake, which is so disturbing that there really
yeah.
need to be some litigation around that. One other thing you mentioned is privacy. How does AI intersect with privacy?
Oh, this is a very difficult topic because, of course, we've had a lot of privacy protections, and there's this assumption that those privacy protections supposedly work. But one of the things to know is that most people with disabilities have already bartered their privacy
Yeah,
for essential
100%.
services, right? I mean, how many people actually read that dense legal text and understand it before they hit I accept or yes to the terms, and especially if it's something that's hugely critical to you. So, privacy is unfortunately not very well protected. Uh, and people with disabilities are most vulnerable to abuse and
Mhm.
misuse. Bad actors assume that there's vulnerability and that you're a good target for financial fraud, for a whole range. I mean, um, yeah, trolls use it, etc. The other thing is that if we go if we look at the privacy protections, sorry, um, anonymization at source is what is called privacy by design. We remove the personal data from the data that's being used by the AI. But if you're highly unique, you can be re-identified because the data is aggregated. So what can happen is, say you're the only person ordering from Amazon something related only to disability within your neighborhood, then you will be re-identified. Somebody can figure out, oh, you're the person on the street, and this is your name, this is your address, this is your phone number, and so you are the one who has a disability. The other thing that, or the other protection that's frequently suggested is differential privacy, which means
Mhm.
that you selectively remove the things that identify you as having a disability from the data set. And that was one of the things that the EEOC recommended in terms of employment discrimination. But what we discovered is that your data is so entangled, and AI is getting so much better at recognizing very, very complex patterns that removing the fact that you have an interrupted work history or that you have attended a disability advocacy group, it doesn't matter because the characteristics that you have shift the entire pattern. And so despite removing those differential things, you're still going to be identified. And the other problem with that is that it means that the AI is not being tuned or taught or trained how to serve you as someone that requires something different.
I genuinely agree. I love the way you put that about people with disabilities bartering their privacy away, because we just see the accessibility as such a gift that people are accepting really egregious privacy policies, which I think is very disgraceful and needs to be worked on and recognized as an issue by everyone instead of just slipping it under the carpet. Thank you for that valuable information on privacy. I just want to know from your perspective, look, what's the future for us of our civilization? Is it still going to be viable when we get to that point where AI can speak, display visuals, create images, do everything that we're doing now, like what is going to happen to our civilization, do you think?
Well, I think the gift of AI is that it's like a magnifying mirror. It shows us where are we speeding to. You know, how have we set up our conventions, our understanding of truth, how we decide, and how where are we going? And is this in fact the direction that we want to go in? And so I think the AI causes us to reflect on what's a better path, right? This is actually not by amplifying things, by really showing, magnifying these patterns that we've
Mhm.
created. It's letting us step back and say, "Whoa, this is not going to get us into a better place. It's not going to allow us to survive as a human race." And so I'm hoping that people take the wake up call that AI is offering and see how we can tune our prior conventions, because AI isn't doing anything new. It is really just amplifying, automating, and accelerating what we've already done, but doing it faster, more efficiently, and more accurately. And so it's like we've pushed the gas pedal on a car that's going in a really dangerous direction. And I think what we need to do is to rethink that direction, change our understanding of truth, who's valuable, our how we make decisions. It includes things like, majority rules decision making as the only thing that the only way to make a fair decision. Well, if we make those majority rules decisions, there are winners and losers, and guess who's the loser? I think we need to rethink how we determine what is truth, because we need to think about what is true for people that are at the margins and edges. That success means serving the people that are most vulnerable, not the complacent majority. Because if we do that, we benefit everybody within our society.
And it's not just about including people so they are included. It's like a valuable part of nature and society is having that diversity of who is working and participating in society.
Yeah, it's the key to our survival. We need that diversity. We need those diverse perspectives, or we don't have the choices we need when the unexpected crisis emerges.
What's next for you on this research related to AI?
Well, we just released a public draft for public review of the Accessible and Equitable AI standard for the Accessible Canada Act. And we're hoping that we get comment there. We're hoping to move it to adoption fairly quickly. And we're also exploring, how do we stretch AI to serve the people that need it the most? How can we, at the moment, it's serving people that are already successful. How can we tune it and push it to serve people who require it, who are struggling?
Well, I really look forward to getting you back on and talking more about AI, accessibility, and the ethics surrounding it. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Pulse.
Thank you. And it's a pleasure talking to you.
And you as well. Thanks. This is such an important conversation surrounding AI, ethics, and inclusivity. So I really appreciate Dr. Jutta Treviranus for joining us on The Pulse. The Pulse airs on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on AMI Audio, or you can catch the show on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Grant Hardy. Thanks so much for listening.